how do you even begin to predict what the markets are going to do in reaction to what the president says tonight, Joseph? So let me start here. Good morning. Has there been any reaction by the markets and the economy in the build-up to the president's speech tonight?
Well, this is the most anticipated cabinet reshuffle, I think, in recent history in South Africa, given the fact that we've had a myriad of challenges, and certainly people have been asking when is the reshuffle. So we've got the Vice President David Mabuza resigning, Fikile Mbalula now, who was the Minister of Transport. Now the ANC Secretary General also is not there. Ayanda Lolo, Minister of Public Service and Administration, resigning. So I think this is hugely anticipated. And also the president announced that they're going to be a minister for electricity. I think this is unprecedented, where the president would look at a crisis and actually start having a minister focusing on that only. So this basically will certainly move a little bit of the market. Either they're going to be disappointed given the fact that the load shedding has been a massive blow to our GDP growth numbers. And so it will certainly move. Last week we closed off weaker, although US and some of the developed markets, certainly the equity market ended up higher. So we might get a little bit of a recovery until the president announces at 7. So the reaction certainly will be in the morning, but the rand will be the quicker one to react.
Okay, so it's the rand we're going to be watching out for. We'll have the markets come up a little bit later as well, Joseph. So when we talk about two key positions that I imagine the market will react to, from a political side, you've mentioned this already, who the new deputy president is going to be. Some suggesting it's a foregone conclusion. It's going to be Paul Mashatile, although I've done other interviews where someone is saying it's not quite as simple as Paul Mashatile. But I imagine economically, the one we're all waiting for is going to be the Minister of Electricity. If a Minister of Electricity were to be appointed, I imagine that would have a positive spin-off for the economy. Would we see a reaction fairly quickly?
I would be keeping his word in terms of doing that. Certainly, they would have had a very hard, kind of thinking about it and the process of selecting that person or individual. Remember, there's credibility issues here, and he acknowledges that Eskom and the electricity energy shortages is a big issue in SA. So I think that is much anticipated, and that person I think is going to be very vital in terms of who that person would be. So I think, that is the most significant, I think, of the appointments. The others really, like the deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, being the deputy president of the country, that's kind of anticipated, and it won't certainly change anything because I think it's been built into the market already. But this unknown person who is going to be our Minister of Electricity, I think that's going to be very much watched for.
It's going to be very, very interesting, the timing as well. And I suppose this is going to be the criticism the president is going to have to deal with about these delays in announcing the cabinet reshuffle, Joseph. But if I'm not mistaken, isn't the GDP numbers coming out on the 8th of March this year? So it should be later this week that the GDP figures are coming out. Tuesday, the 8th of March, I'm sorry. So we also need to take a look at how that's going to be predicted when it comes to how the economy is going to react. Because if we have another quarter in a negative territory, we could start having conversations about recessions, don't we?
We had the first quarter this year, last year, 1.7 up. Then the second quarter was negative. Third quarter, it was 1.6. And this last quarter, fourth quarter of 2022, the expectation that the numbers will be sideways to a little bit of contraction. So you had one contraction last year, and the expectation certainly would be that, overall we might get the GDP for 2022 at about 1.6, 1.7. And if that number comes lower than expected, certainly I think it's going to dampen the market, and we're going to see a muted equity market today. So it is very vital, and I think that might be very difficult for us to end up being very positive, given the fact that the blackouts and load shedding was quite severe in the last quarter of 2022.
And Joseph, I'm sure we're going to be speaking again after the cabinet reshuffle. We should have a new deputy president, and if all the stars align, we should have a minister of electricity as well. There's a new position we're all looking forward to. Hopefully going to keep the lights on. Joseph, thank you as always, just giving us an economic perspective about what to expect for the cabinet reshuffle a little bit later this evening.